Hello, gentlemen, ladies and girls, boys and transgender, if there is any. Today, I would like to tell you that I have delivered an introductory lecture on Islamic studies, and in this lecture, this is the second lecture, but actually you can consider it the first one, because in the first lecture I have told you that how you can how what will be your strategy for Islamic studies, and this I was discussing the syllabus, etc. Now let us have discussion on women rights, and we will discuss some modern aspects in this regard, and we will dissect this topic from many aspects, and we will dissect it multidimensionally. So let us start. First, I would like to tell you that uh, I would like to share with you that what will be our how we will proceed our lecture. So first, let I will tell you a sentence. You have to note it down that no religion has a compendium. No religion has a compendium of women who have proven their metal as voluminous as Islam. If you don't want to note that down, then it is also absolutely fine. You have the right, or you have the freedom. But now, things that I am going to tell you in points form, you have to comment over here. Let me check your comments, and let me check it that whether I am live or not. Let me check it. Okay, I am live here, but and I am waiting for students, and okay. So uh, uh, now let me tell you that you have to note these points with you in your register, and you can also comment here, so that this become part of your conscious mind and conscious memory. So let us start. First we will discuss some historical or cultural aspects of. We will first do the main heading is historical analysis. We will do historical analysis, and then in historical analysis number one, we will discuss it from culture perspective, and then we will discuss from religion perspective, and then we will discuss women from intra temporally perspective. What historical analysis? Let us discuss it and different culture, that how women were treated. So in South Asia, first we will talk about South Asia, and South Asia with Barisagir. The women were treated very um, in a very bad way. When someone died, and they just even the woman were put in the fire with him. So this was the historical. We are now in historical phase, and we are doing historical analysis. First, you have to watch the 4 minutes lecture, so that you can have a good idea about the whole lecture. We are discussing now historical analysis. The main heading is write it down. Historical analysis. In historical analysis, we will discuss culture aspect, religious aspects, and intratemporal aspect. INTRATEMPORALLY. These terminologies, each and everything will be clear with the passage of time. Cultural aspect. Now we are discussing the cultural aspects. And we are talking about women rights. And we will then connect these ideas with Islam, the religion of peace. So in South Asia, women were considering women were considering very bad, and when someone husband passed away, she was put with him and fired. So this was the condition in South Asia. And then if we're talking about the Greek, according to Greek and Aristotle was that time, this was the era of Aristotle. Kindly write points down that I am telling you, and you have to write the points as a comment. Okay, Greece. The Greece were considering women as commodity. Commodity means that they were considering women as a thing and inherited, and they were considering women as a labor, that they are our slave and labor and these things. So this was in Greek era. And then when we talk about the religion, like in Buddhism, and in Hinduism, so the situation was also bad. But but before Islamic era, in the age of ignorance, the women were also considering bad, and they were treated in a very harsh way. Historical aspect of religion, is this today's topic? No, today's topic we will connect these ideas. I am discussing this topic from multiple aspects. The today's topic is women rights, and we will connect at Islam. This is Islamic studies class, so women rights in Islam, you can say it. Historical aspect, I am now how I will approach to this topic. I am discussing the historical aspects of religion. This will be a long lecture. So this was historical analysis. Then I was talking about age of ignorant, the age before Islam. So the condition was also very bad that time, and the women were considered very immature, and they were killing the women. And they just killed the kids, especially the girls. So this was the condition. And then if we talk about the present London, or the present the present the past London and Europe, so the condition was very bad. And the women even don't have the right to vote. So there was then feminism, and now we are going to we will also connect it with feminism. We will discuss, I have told you that we will dissect this topic from multiple aspects. So feminism, and then the wave of feminism, first, second and third wave. So what now, comparative. Now the second topic is comparative women. We will discuss women from comparative religions. Comparative, we will compare different religion and discuss women. So according to Christianity, Comparative religion means that we will discuss women from the perspective of different religions. So according to Christianity, when the story of Eve and Adam, हज़रत आदम अलैहिस्सलाम और जो हवा का किस्सा था, तो ये क्रिश्चियनिटी कहता है, Christianity says that the the whole they put the whole thing on the burden on the shoulders of Eve, हवा. दे वो कहता है, वो क्रिश्चियनिटी इस बारे में ये ये इसका ये फ़लसफ़ा है और ये उसके आर्गूमेंट्स है कि ये जो सारा कसूर था ये हवा का था, और इसमें जिसने हज़रत आदम अलैहिस्सलाम को वरगलाया और उसको ये खिलाया, तो फिर लेकिन कुरान क्या कहता है, what Islam says about that. This is very technical point. Islam use the word zawaj, and zawaj, they are equally involved. So this was about the comparative religion. Now let me tell you what the Hinduism say about that. So according to Hinduism, about Sita Ram, when Sita was kidnapped, then and she came back, then Ram was not accepting her and said that you are not pure. So this was things from Agripatnam. This is called Agripatnam or something else. You can use it, Agripatnam. So this was the condition. But if we talk about Islam, Hazrat Aisha रज़ियल्लाहु ताला अन्हा पे इल्ज़ाम लगा था, तो फिर हज़रत मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने उसको तलाक नहीं दी, बल्कि फिर आगे जाकर कुरान पाक में ये आया कि हज़रत आयशा जो है ये पाक दामन है, she is pure. So this was the condition. Now comparative, so Islam comparatively and as compared with other religion, Islam good, very good. Zawj word for women in Quran. Zawj not women for Quran. This and Zawj male and female. Zawj मियाँ और बीवी को कहते हैं कुरान पाक, ये zawj. तो this was okay. Comparatively, so Islam consider women equal to men in every rights. So this was the about women rights. Now women rights in the West. What is the condition in women right in the West? 1991 तक Switzerland में there was 1990. This is very strange and you will be surprised that 1991 तक women rights का कोई concept नहीं था कि वो एक औरत ऊँट डाले. ये स्विट्ज़रलैंड में कोई भी concept नहीं था, कोई भी इस तरह कोई वो नहीं था कि women को allowed किया जाए. The women should allowed to vote. Now this is 1.1991 Switzerland. No vote, no rights to vote. Women were not allowed to vote. And till 1970, even the America, in America, USA, the women were not allowed without her the consent of her husband to get credits, to use credits, to be independent and so तो अमेरिका में क्रेडिट्स कार्ड्स का जो यूज़ था 1970 तक ये वमेन नहीं कर सकती जब तक उसकी शोहर का कंसेंट ना हो. तो she was asking and requesting her husband, then she were allowed to do it, otherwise not. 1970 तक. This is strange and you should end. और इस्लाम ने 1400 साल पहले ये जो राइट्स थी ये दिए थे. Now if we talk 1990s 19th तक 1900 1900 19th तक 1900 1900 तक, तो 1900 तक में ये यूएसए जो था ये they were not allowing the women to own the property. So this was the condition, how bad it is or it was. Now you can compare things, but Islam was given the right 1400 साल पहले इसने ये जो 1400 year and they gave the rights to women 1400 साल पहले. So now the and in 1990s तक they were completely they were even the in UK the 1891 the men even can beat the women, but they were not. This is so stupid point that the men were not allowed to beat the women between 10 to 6 a.m. because they will disturb the neighbors. This was the only case. So these are facts about this. And now, okay, kindly comment dear what I am saying. Comment. Now we will talk about the women rights. We are talking about women rights in the West, and we will talk about the three waves of feminism. So I am connecting points related with Islam as I have connected things with from the perspective of Islam. I am talking. So first wave of feminism, and first wave of feminism there was suffrage and property rights. Suffrage and property are equality before the law. So in first wave there was no right, and women were demanding suffrage mean right to vote. So they were demanding to right to vote and properties, and they should consider equal from the perspective of law. And second wave the women were demanding employment and radical ideas like that. Women, there was some radical ideas that women should not dress and make up and these things in order to look good, etc. And third wave they were demanding freedom and right of choice. So the after First World War in 1990s 1900 1900 में ये फर्स्ट वेव ऑफ फेमिनिज्म आ गया था. और फिर एंड देन वी हैव सेकंड वेव ऑफ फेमिनिज्म 1960 एंड देन वी हैव थर्ड वेव ऑफ फेमिनिज्म 1990s. And now people are thinking that we are now having fourth wave of feminism. Me too. Have you also have gone through it in newspapers. So but Islam has given these rights 1400 years ago. So this is a great and something great, and this is the power of Islam that they consider women equal to men. Now this was about the feminism. I have told you things about the feminism, and now I have discussed first wave, second wave and third wave. Now the current status. What is the current status in the West? Backlash. What is the meaning of backlash? In West till the women are forced still facing problems like the Donald Trump, and they are just opposing the women and don't consider the women equal to men. And dual labor means that women are now doing double work. They are even working in houses as well as in offices. So this is dual work. First point, the current status you will note down: blacklash, you know the रद्द-ए-अमल. तो रद्द-ए-अमल ये है कि ये इसको अच्छा नहीं समझा जाता है अभी वेस्ट में, और ये जो डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प जैसे बंदे हैं ये थोड़ा सा उसमें इन्वॉल्व है. They still want to push the women back. And dual labor, the second point in the current status is dual labor, and the third one is equality, equity and similarity debate. You should know the difference between equity and equality and equity. You can search and Google. You know, an equality, equal things will be given, no matter without considering anyone. But an equity, you will give resources or things and keeping human in mind. You know, when there is a poor man, you will give them more. When there is a rich, you will give him less. So this is the concept of equality and equity. So this is a debate between equity and similarity debate. So this is that women should be they are equal, or they should be given equity or similarity. So this was the debate, and you should also have to go in details. Okay. Now let us discuss the holistic analysis. We discussed the historical approach, and then we comparative religion analysis. Then we are in holistic approach or holistic analysis. You know, legal. In this we will discuss legal, economic, political, social, educational and spiritual. Okay. And legal, you know, now we are in Islam base. What Islam is saying and telling about this, and the approach of Islam is holistic. Okay. Legal, you know, legal rights. Islam has given equal rights, legal rights to women. For example, they are equal, and during marriage they will ask her choice and consent and testimony, and their testimony or their gawahi will be accepted. And economic, they are allowed to trade and inheritance, and economic, they are equal in economic, from economic perspective, economical. And then political, they are just have the freedom of expression, vote and opinion. And social, they are just and social, they are also equal. They are allowed to marry, and they are given the right to divorce, and dowry, DOWRY, jahez. So this is also, in Islam, in the real sense, the women should not, the dowry will not be taken from women, and but one can accept the gifts. So dowry, the concept of dowry. But when Hazrat Ali Rajallahu Ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Aisha Rajallahu Ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Ali Rajallahu sold his sword or something else, and then he came to and he gave the dowry to or gifts to Hazrat, what was the who was the daughter of Muhammad, who gave these things to the daughter of Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now we have, so this is the concept of Islam. And in Islam we there are some cultural things which are injected in it, and this should be avoided. And they are not even given equal rights and inheritance, and they are not given the equal rights in case of inheritance. And still this is the case in Pakistan, but Islam has given these rights 1400 years back. So this is something, this is a good point. And if we talk an educational perspective, so the in Quran, that is given that women should also achieve knowledge or education, and they should be educated from the perspective of Islam or Quran as men. And spiritual, they are also given advantages from the spiritual perspective. Hazrat Rabia Basri and Hazrat Fatma, and we are much spiritual women. And they are just allowed to and from spiritual perspective, you can say that the worship of men and women are equal in this regard. And then so we are an holistic analysis, and the the approach of Islam is holistic one. So now let me ask a question from you, that why women cannot lead prayers. This is also a objection on it. So the answer is that they are exempt because to leading the prayer, ये नमाज नहीं पढ़ सकती, वो खुतबा और ये चीज़ें नहीं दे सकती, और ये वो और या वो नमाज जनाजा भी नहीं दे, तो क्यों? What is the reason? Is what reason is that because in menstrual cycle, women are not allowed to offer their prayers. So and in order to avoid this condition and keep, अगर आपसे कोई कहे कि यार ये अगर एक वुमेन को अलाउड किया जाए कि ये वो नमाज जनाजा भी पढ़ सकती है और ये खुतबा और ये बाजुमात नमाज भी दे सकती है, तो फिर उसका जो मेंस्ट्रुअल साइकिल का पीरियड जब शुरू होता है उसका, तो फिर ये इसमें ये टेक्निकल पॉइंट है, तो वो फिर नमाज नहीं दे सकेगी, बाजुमात वो खुतबा और ये चीज़ें नहीं दे सकेगी, तो फिर ऑटोमेटिकली लोगों को पता चल जाएगा, तो ये थोड़ा सा बुरा समझा जाएगा, क्योंकि दिस इज समथिंग पर्सनल. एंड एंड फाइनेंशियल वेटनेस दे और ये फाइनेंस जब कोई माशी और ये फाइनेंशियल वेटनेस जो होता है कि ये औरत की गवाही इसमें औरत वुमेन विल शुड बी टू इन दिस केस, ये गवाही के केस में फाइनेंशियल वेटनेस माशी गवाही में जो माश से रिलेटेड गवाही हो, तो वुमेन 2 होनी चाहिए. ये क्यों होने चाहिए अब वुमेन 2? 2 women should be there. So why the case is that? Because the case is very simple. In that time the age were that of ignorance, and the Islam just allowed women to participate equally, so they were unaware of economical things, and they were unaware that they were not that much used to economical issues, and they were a bit maybe a bit very not that much good in counting. So this is was the reason that there should be 2 women in case of financial witness. So this was some things, and from my side, and holistic approach. So Islam is the peace of religion and given and provide equal ground in case of rights to all women, and this have stopped the violence and these things. So this was from the perspective of Islam. You can also mention Quranic verses, and also just uh, uh, some extract some ahadith in this case. So this was all about the what's now what is the current scenario. You know, in Pakistan still the women, in some parts of the Pakistan the women still um, uh, just marry with Quran से शादी करना and wana and karokari, these are things are still there. So and Islam has uh, just Islam has already finished these things that the women have equal rights as men. But still, these are now in Saudi Arabia. Still, there is ban on car traveling and these things, and but still they are not following this. But this is the current scenario. But the Islam, the approach of Islam is still holistic. Now let me read your question that no, you know, in case of adultery you are not allowed to do it. There are this has the same rule for men. This can apply if this is can apply to women, then it can also be applied to men. So this is not the case. Uh, and you know these are some sensitive issues, and you have to avoid these issues in paper. But you know, in case of these things, women are given importance. अगर इस तरह का कोई वाक़या आ जाए तो इसमें फिर ये वमेन को देखा जाता है. अगर एक वमेन गवाही दे कि इसने मेरे साथ ये एक्ट्स किया है या वो है, आई हैव गॉन थ्रू दिस, then it will be accepted. While in the case of in such cases, four men will be required. So this you should remember it. It was a good question, and you should. These are very sensitive topics, but you have to be very holistic and very diplomatic in this case. And Islam is a piece of religion, each and everything. If this is the rule for women, then this is also the rule for men. No one is above Allah in the eyes of Islam. Okay, this is from my side. If you still have some question, then I will love to answer. Thank you very much.